There is something deeply unsettling about the idea that your experience of reality is incomplete. Not slightly inaccurate, not occasionally misleading, but fundamentally filtered, shaped, and reduced before it ever reaches your awareness. And yet, this is not a theory. This is how your brain works. From the moment you were born, your mind has been constructing a version of reality for you. Not a perfect copy of the world, but a model. Efficient, simplified, and optimized for survival. A version that allows you to function, to move through life without being overwhelmed by the infinite complexity of existence. But that version comes at a cost, because every time your brain chooses what to show you, it also chooses what to hide. And the more you think about that, the more a strange question begins to form. If most of reality is filtered out, then what kind of world are you actually living in? Not the one that exists, but the one your brain allows you to see. This realization changes everything, because it means that what you call the world is not something external and fixed. It is something constructed, something assembled in real time from fragments of sensory data, predictions, memories, and beliefs. It feels stable. It feels real. But it is not complete. Imagine for a moment that your brain suddenly stopped filtering information, that every signal, every frequency, every detail of reality flooded into your awareness at once. The light beyond visible wavelengths, the sounds beyond your hearing range, the microscopic movements, the electromagnetic noise, the subtle patterns hidden within patterns. It would not feel like enlightenment. It would feel like chaos. Your mind would not be able to process it. You would lose the ability to focus, to act, to even understand what you are experiencing. Reality would become too dense, too fast, too overwhelming, so your brain protects you. It builds a boundary, not between you and the world, but between you and most of it. And inside that boundary, it creates something manageable, something you can live in, something you can call reality. But here's the part that most people never consider. That boundary is not fixed. It shifts. It adapts. It changes based on your attention, your beliefs, your emotional state, and your experiences. Which means the reality you experience is not constant. It is dynamic. And that raises a possibility that is both fascinating and slightly disturbing. If your perception can change, then your reality can appear to change with it. Not because the external world is transforming, but because the filter through which you experience it is evolving. Think about how your perception of something changes once you become aware of it. A word you've never noticed before suddenly appears everywhere. A concept you just learned seems to repeat itself in different contexts. A pattern you once ignored becomes impossible to unsee. This is not coincidence. This is your brain updating its filter. It is deciding that this information is now relevant, and it begins to allow it into your awareness. But what about everything that remains filtered out? What about the patterns you haven't noticed yet? The connections you haven't made? The possibilities your brain has not yet decided are important? They are still there, hidden but present. Now consider how this applies not just to external reality, but to your inner world, your thoughts, your emotions, your identity. You might believe that you are fully aware of your own mind, that your thoughts are yours, that your feelings are transparent, that your sense of self is stable. But neuroscience suggests something very different. Much of your mental activity happens below the level of conscious awareness. Your brain is constantly generating thoughts and making decisions. By the time a thought enters your consciousness, it has already been filtered, edited, selected. You are not seeing the full process. You are seeing the final output. And that output feels like you. But is it? Or is it just the version your brain has decided to present? This idea challenges something fundamental, because it suggests that even your sense of self is not the full picture. It is a model, a narrative, a filtered identity constructed over time. And just like your perception of the external world, it can change. There are moments in life when people experience a shift in perception so profound that it feels like waking up. A realization that changes everything. These moments are often described as clarity, insight, awakening. But what if they are moments when the filter loosens? Just enough to let something new through? Something that was always there, but never visible. And for a brief moment, reality expands. Then the filter returns, but not exactly as it was. Because once something has been seen, it cannot be completely unseen. This is how perception evolves, gradually, layer by layer. Now take this idea to its logical extreme. If your brain is constantly filtering reality, and if that filter is shaped by your beliefs, then your beliefs are not just passive ideas. They are active forces. They determine what you notice and what you ignore. This is why two people can live in the same world and experience completely different realities. One sees opportunity. The other sees limitation. The external environment may be the same, but the internal filter is different, and that makes all the difference. Now here's where things become even more interesting. Because if your brain can filter reality, it can also be trained to filter it differently, through attention, through awareness, through intentional shifts in perception. You can begin to notice things you previously ignored. You can expand the boundaries of what you consider real. And as you do, your experience of reality begins to change. This is not about escaping reality. It is about understanding that reality, as you experience it, is not the full picture. It never was. And the more you become aware of that, the more curious you become, because the question is no longer just philosophical. It becomes personal. What am I missing? What patterns exist just outside my awareness? What truths have I filtered out without even realizing it? Because there is a reason your brain filters reality so aggressively. Not just for efficiency, but for stability. But the moment that stability is questioned, even slightly, everything begins to feel different, less certain, more open. Within that uncertainty, there is also possibility. The possibility that reality is richer than you imagined, deeper than you perceived. If what you see is not the full reality, if what you believe shapes what you perceive, then the world you experience is not just something you live in. It is something you co-create, moment by moment, through perception, through attention, through awareness. And once you begin to understand that, everything changes. Not all at once, not dramatically, but subtly, quietly, because the next time you look at the world, you won't just see what's there. You'll start to wonder, what isn't? And that question might be the beginning of seeing more than you ever have before.